whether adaptation to a second language accent is supported by a phonemic recalibration mechanism. I'm going to dive right into this. The participants in this study are L1 Spanish multilinguals who have some experience with English, and that's going to be a factor that I'll show you in the data that's rather important. They are going to be trained with American accented Spanish because there's a natural difference in plosives in the voice onset time for American accented Spanish compared to a native Spanish speaker. If you want more details about the exact stimuli and the different random assignments, you can come back and look at the poster. But for the sake of time, I'm going to dive right into the data. There are two main findings in this study. So there is a pre to post-test design where participants are doing a 2 AFC task where they have to sort tokens from a 0 to 100 continua into the categories. So ba versus pa, da versus ta, ga versus ka, for example. If we look at just the pre-test data before participants get any of the training with the words, what we see is actually rather interesting. So here I am showing you more versus less experienced multilinguals. So this is experience with English, specifically the type of accent. And so if you compare the solid versus the dashed lines, you can see that the more experienced listeners in the pre-test session already have a more English-like category, which would be towards the right here. Also, within this pre-test session, all participants seem to move their categories a little bit to the right, which is also quite fascinating. But what we were primarily interested in is whether our training would affect categories and move them to the right. And so what I'm showing you here is just the bilabial block of data. There's more data, and you're welcome to go look at the preprint if you want to see all of the data. But this is just data from the bilabial to EFC task. And what happens when participants are trained with bilabial words in the middle, alveolar words in the middle, or velar words in the middle. And what you can see here, focusing first on our less experienced listeners, so this solid line, is that there is movement from pre-test to post-test. But this movement is much larger when participants are trained with the same category that they are being tested on. So more movement here for the bilabials than alveolars and velars. Also, there's definitely an effect of experience where these more experienced listeners, they already have a more English-like category to begin with. So what we are concluding from this study is that listeners do recalibrate their phonemic categories when they hear a second language accent, what we colloquially call a foreign accent, and experience with the first language of a second language accented talker really matters, and it seems to facilitate recalibration. It seems that our listeners may have identified the accent they're listening to and even applied their English category boundaries. And if you want to look at the preprint, the QR code is right here.